Most business owners, they walk into sale negotiations completely alone, facing professional buyers that have done this 50 times. And they wonder why they're leaving $500,000 on the table. Here's what nobody tells you. You've spent decades building your business. It represents your entire retirement. But when it comes time to sell, you're negotiating against people who do this for a living. People who know exactly what questions to ask to expose weakness and how to use your own words against you. One wrong move, and you've just handed them the leverage that could cost you 6 or even 7 figures. This isn't theoretical. I've sold over 200 businesses with an aggregate value of 400 million in small businesses sold. But more importantly, I've sold 6 of my own personal companies with my own money on the line. I've sat on both sides of the table. I've personally made mistakes that cost me money. And I've watched sellers torpedo deals worth millions of dollars because they didn't understand the way the game was supposed to be played. The power imbalance is real, but you can level the playing field by knowing exactly what to do. By the end of this video, you're gonna understand the specific language that weakens your position, the psychology that buyers use to manipulate sellers, and the exact do's and don'ts during a deal that will help you retire comfortably. Let's get into it. Let's start with the uncomfortable truth that nobody wants to talk about. Most business owners, they're selling for the first time in their life. They've run successful companies, they've negotiated contracts, managed teams, but they've never navigated the process of actually selling a business. Meanwhile, the buyers, they're professionals. They know the playbook and they know which questions reveal desperation. They know how to anchor low and they know how to make you feel grateful for mediocre offers. I cannot emphasize this enough. I've spent almost 20 years in professional negotiation with lawyers, CPAs, sharks in the industry. While business owners are great at what they do not specialize in selling companies. Usually, this is their first time. This imbalance is why I see most sellers leave at least $500,000 or more at the closing table. It's not because their business wasn't valuable, it's because they didn't know how to protect that value in the negotiation room. But somehow business owners convince themselves that they can handle the largest financial transaction of their lives all alone. The buyer walks in with advisors who've structured hundreds of deals. They know which financial metrics to scrutinize. They know how to reframe risk. They know the exact moment in negotiation when silence becomes a weapon. And you're sitting there thinking, I built this from nothing. I know it better than anyone. That's true. But knowing your business and knowing how to sell your business are completely different skill sets. If you're planning to sell alone, you need to understand this. You're walking into a room where the other side has the advantage. Information, experience, emotional detachment. You need to either get really educated fast or bring someone in who's done this as many times as the buyer, if not more. Because the reality is, this is probably your first time selling a business. The mistakes you make here, they're expensive. Here's what most sellers don't realize. Buyers are listening for specific phrases that tell them that you're desperate, unprepared, or even emotional. Making yourself irreplaceable is a death sentence. I cannot tell you how many clients I get on the phone that immediately tell the buyers how critical they are to operation and how they're the only ones that can handle these key accounts. And in reality, how the business would fall apart without them. You think you're demonstrating value? What the buyer hears is risk. They're thinking, if this person leaves, revenue crashes. I need a steep discount to compensate for that risk. Here's what you should say instead. Position yourself as a strong operator who's built systems, delegated effectively, and has a capable team in place. For example, I've built this business to run smoothly whether I'm here or not. We have strong processes, a strong team, and I'm happy to stay on for a transition period for as long as you'd like to ensure continuity. But this business, it doesn't depend on me to run day to day. You see the difference? You're still signaling competence and value in yourself, but you're removing the risk factor that gives buyers leverage in negotiation. Here's the second trend. Don't overprice based on emotion. When sellers anchor price based on emotion or how they feel, what it signals is amateur hour. Buyers, they see that you're emotionally attached, not market informed. They'll immediately discount everything that you say. So what's the right move? The right move is to get a professional valuation done. Know the market multiples. Anchor based on data, not feelings. For example, you'd say something like, based on price comparables in our industry, and our current EBITDA, market value sits in this range. Here's our third-party appraisal that supports that. That's how you establish credibility from the first conversation with a buyer. The third trap, and this one kills me every time. Never disclose everything immediately. I've had clients just start volunteering information without being asked the question. For example, talking about a rough patch in the business that happened 5 years ago. Maybe a divorce that impacted operations. Client losses that are ancient history. The buyer never asked about that, but now they know. And now they're building a case as to why your business is riskier than originally reviewed. The discipline here is simple. Answer questions concisely. Don't elaborate. Don't feel silence when you get nervous. I never ask my clients to misrepresent or conceal anything. That's never the answer. But don't just openly disclose things that aren't pertinent to the question the buyer just asked. Stick to the question. Answer honestly and simply, and then move on. This might feel unnatural if you're a business owner who's used to building rapport with clients based on storytelling. But in negotiation, every word that you say is critical. Buyers are trained to extract information. Don't make their job easier. Point number 3, and this one kills deals before they ever begin. Confidentiality isn't optional. The moment that the word gets out that you're selling, everything changes. Employees can start updating their resumes, clients can start questioning credibility, competitors could be circling like sharks, and your negotiation position, it starts to evaporate. I've seen businesses lose major sale accounts during the process of negotiation because they chose to tell one employee. I've seen clients lose major accounts during a business negotiation because a buyer who didn't even close on the deal leaked information to the market. Once that happens, you can't put the cookie back in the cookie jar, so to speak. Here's my standard that's non-negotiable. Every buyer that inquires about business, they have to sign a non-disclosure and a non-circumvent form that has $1 million damage clause in it, as well as they have to provide proof of funds. I do not release any business information to any buyer unless they provide those things. Here's why. I can't help a buyer who only has, say, $10,000 in the bank, who's inquiring about a $10 million business that's for sale. It's not possible. Those buyers typically will say something like, I have investor pools, or I've got a series of investors that are willing to put up money if the deal is right, but I need to see the information. Those buyers, they're gonna shop your business around. They're gonna use your business information for competitive intelligence, and they're gonna waste everybody's time. Too many buyers are out there that will tell you, I've got investors. I've got capital partners. Just show me the numbers, show me your business, and we'll figure out the funding. That's a massive red flag. What confidentiality actually looks like is qualified buyers only. Strict NDAs, no public website offerings, no public listings on open forums where anyone can see your financials. Information is only released in stages, only after each level of commitment is proven. For you as a seller, this means do not casually mention your business is for sale to your employees, vendors, or even industry contacts. Do not list your business on open marketplaces without protection. Work with somebody who treats confidentiality like the deal protecting force that it actually is. Your business is only valuable if it's stable. The second that instability creeps in, real or perceived, buyers will use that to negotiate down or they'll completely walk away. The hardest job starts the day you decide to sell. So you've decided to sell your business, congratulations. Now you need to work harder than you've ever worked in your life. Here's why. Most sellers, they check out mentally the minute they decide to sell. They stop investing in growth, they stop chasing new clients, but here's what happens. Revenue, it starts to decline. Margins slip, a key employee leaves, and they don't get replaced. By the time the buyer shows up during due diligence 6 months later, the trend lines, they start to point down. And buyers, they don't pay premium prices for declining businesses. What you need to do instead is you need to keep your foot on the gas. Keep investing and keep growing. The stronger your business looks during due diligence, the more leverage you have. A business that's growing month after month during the sales process, that signals strength. It tells the buyer, the owner's not desperate. The business is healthy. And if I don't close, someone else will. That's the type of energy that you want in the room. Not, please take this off my hands. I promise this asset is performing. The hard truth is this, selling, it's a marathon. It's not a finish line. You don't just get to coast until the wire hits your account. You need to prepare for that mentally now because deal timelines, they can stretch longer than you thought up front. And your performance during that time frame will absolutely determine your payout. But once you're in the active sales process, treat every month like it's going to be the best personal revenue month of that business. Buyers will always ask about future growth potential in every single deal. This is where a lot of sellers torpedo the deal and ruin their credibility. I once heard a seller tell a buyer that they could easily double their revenue next year. Congratulations, you just destroyed the trust. Here's why. Sellers love to talk about growth potential. With the right investment, we could easily double our sales, etc., etc. Here's what a buyer hears. This person is speculating. They're trying to get me to pay for hypothetical upside that may or may not exist. Aggressive projections make you look like an amateur. Compare that to a seller who says, look, we've grown 12% year over year for the last 3 years. That's sustainable with our current model. If you want to push harder, you'll need to invest in X, Y, and Z, but I'm not going to promise results that I haven't personally delivered. The seller gets the deal done at the asking price because they've demonstrated that they understand their business, their market, and their limitations. Don't overstate your growth. It doesn't help you. Honestly, it just makes the buyer skeptical of everything else you say. Let's talk about the psychological tactics that buyers use. Because if you don't recognize them, you're going to fall for them every single time. Here's how to beat it. Buyers, they anchor low on purpose. They'll come in with an offer, say 30 to 40% below market, fully expecting you to counter. But here's the trap. That low anchor sets the psychological range for the entire negotiation. Even if you counter higher, you're now negotiating within their frame. Here's how to counter and re-anchor with data. I appreciate the offer, but based on comparable transactions in our industry, businesses with similar EBITDA and growth to ours, these businesses are trading between 4 and 5 times multiples. Here's our third-party valuation that supports that. Let's go ahead and start the conversation there. You're not arguing, you're not getting defensive, you're just resetting the frame with actual market data. Here's the second tactic, the disappointed sigh. Buyer reviews your financials, he sighs, shakes their head slightly. I was really hoping the margins would be stronger. It's theater. They're trying to make you feel like your business is underperforming so that you'll accept less. Your move. Don't defend. Don't justify. Acknowledge and redirect. Our margins are consistent with industry standards for a business of our size. If you're looking for different margin profiles, that's fair, but this is what this business delivers. And the valuation, it reflects that reality. Again, you're not arguing. You're just holding your ground with data. The pattern here is simple. Buyers will test you. They'll push. They'll use body language, tone, silence, and emotional cues to see if you'll cave. They lose their power when you recognize the game. You don't take it personally, and you hold your position with calm confidence. Look, if you're sitting there thinking about selling your business within the next 12 to 24 months, the single most important thing you can do is get a professional valuation done. Not a guess, not a broker who just throws out a random range of multiple for your business. A real third-party appraisal that tells you exactly what your business is worth in today's market. I offer a complimentary $3,000 business valuation appraisal. It's the starting point for everything. You can't negotiate effectively if you don't know the value of your business. Reach out through the link below to get some clarity on that. Here's the hard part for successful business owners to hear. You're great at running a business. That doesn't mean you should negotiate the sale of your business. You're emotionally attached. This is your life's work, your retirement, your legacy. When a buyer lowballs you or they question your business model, it feels personal. That emotional investment makes it nearly impossible to negotiate with detachment that really helps maximize value. Professional advisors don't have that problem. I can walk away from a bad deal without worrying about damaging relationships because I'm the buffer between you and the buyer. Buyers negotiate professionally. You need to as well. They have lawyers, they have accountants, they have M&A advisors. They have a team built to extract value from the transaction. If you show up alone, you're outgunned. Here's what I tell my clients up front all the time. You don't have to hire me, but hire someone who's done this as many times as the buyer has. Someone who only gets paid if you get paid. Because the reality is, this is probably the first time that you're selling a business. The mistakes you make here, they're expensive, and you don't get a do-over. So here's what we covered. The power imbalance between sellers and professionals, buyers is real. the specific language that weakens your position, confidentiality mistakes that tank valuations, the mental checkout that destroys deals, the growth projection errors that kill credibility, the psychological tactics that buyers use to manipulate you, and why negotiating alone can be the single biggest risk inside of this process. If you walk away from understanding one thing from this video, let it be this: selling your business is not the same as running your business. You can be an exceptional operator and still get crushed in negotiation because these are different skill sets. The do's and the don'ts that I just walked you through, they're not optional. They are the difference between retiring comfortably or leaving half your wealth on the table. If you're serious about selling in the next 12 to 24 months, start with a free valuation. The link's below. Let's make sure you know your number before you ever sit down at the negotiation table.